Have you ever found yourself reacting to something and it's like you're on autopilot? Maybe a flash of anger or a wave of anxiety that feels, well, a little too big for the situation. Or maybe you just feel this constant low grade inner conflict where one part of you wants to be rational and another part is just feeling small or judged or afraid. It's like there are these different voices in your head. Well, today we're going to dive into a framework that actually gives us a language for that inner world, all drawn from Dr. Thomas A. Harris's classic book, I'm Okay, You're Okay. Here's the path we're going to take. First, we'll get to know those voices in your head with what's called the parent-adult-child model. Then, we'll look at the 4 life scripts that these voices tend to create. We'll dig into our default setting and why so many of us start out feeling, not okay. From there, we'll talk about how to activate the most helpful part of ourselves. And finally, we'll see how all of this can lead to a totally new kind of inner conversation. So Dr. Thomas Harris was a psychiatrist, and he had this goal to take a pretty complex psychological idea called transactional analysis and make it so that anyone could use it. This wasn't just some academic exercise for him. He wanted to give people a practical tool, a way to look at their own internal programming, maybe question it, and ultimately build better relationships, not just with other people, but with themselves. And honestly, in a world that feels so reactive, his ideas feel more relevant than ever. Okay, let's get into the core of it. The whole foundation of Harris's work is this idea that each of us has 3 distinct ego states running at all times. He calls them the parent, the adult, and the child. And these aren't just cute metaphors. He saw them as actual recordings of our past experiences, constantly playing back and shaping how we react to things, right here, right now. So first up, we have the parent. I want you to picture a giant, unedited audio and video recording of everything you saw authority figures do and say when you were really little, say in your first 5 years. It's filled with rules, commands, shoulds and shouldn'ts, and all the judgments we just soaked up before we even knew how to think for ourselves. Now, this parent ego state has 2 different flavors. You've got the critical parent, which is that voice that says things like, you're so lazy, or you always mess this up. But you also have the nurturing parent, which is the voice that says, hey, it's okay, everyone makes mistakes. So imagine you spill coffee on an important paper. The critical parent tape might instantly play, how could you be so clumsy, you ruin everything. But the nurturing parent tape might say, don't worry about it, let's just clean it up and figure out a solution. The key is both are just old recordings playing automatically. Okay, next up is the child. If the parent is the recording of what happened to us, the child is the recording of how we felt about it. This is where our raw emotions live. All the joy, the curiosity, the creativity, but also the fear, the shame, and the vulnerability. It's the part of us that feels the world without a filter. It's the wonder you feel watching a sunset, but it's also that sharp sting you feel when someone criticizes you. And this is so important. The child state is where we store our earliest conclusions about who we are. So when that critical parent tape plays after the coffee spill, you ruin everything, the child records the feeling that comes with it. Shame, incompetence, that deep down feeling of being not okay. This isn't a defect, it's just the data that a child's mind collected, and we carry it with us, ready to be triggered by similar events in our adult lives. And that brings us to the third voice, the adult. The adult is different. It's not a recording of the past. It's our rational mind, right here in the present. It's the part of us that can actually look at a situation, gather the facts, and make a decision based on what's really happening now. The adult is what allows us to learn, to adapt, and to decide when to turn off those old tapes. You can always spot the adult by its language. It's curious. It asks questions. Why? What? How? It thinks in terms of what's probable or possible, not in harsh black and white judgments. So back to our coffee spill. The adult doesn't panic or judge. It just says, okay, the coffee spilled. What's the damage? How can we reprint this? What can I do to make sure this doesn't happen again? It's not emotional. It's just a problem solver. Now, this is a point where this whole idea is often misapplied. The goal is not to get rid of your parent or your child. That's a huge misunderstanding. I mean, the child is the source of our joy and our creativity, and the parent has some genuinely useful life lessons stored away. The real goal is to strengthen the adult, so it can act like a good manager. It can look at the data from the parent and the child and decide, okay, what's actually useful today, and what's an outdated recording that we can let go of. So we have these 3 voices, the parent, the adult, and the child, all going at once. How does that actually shape our lives? Well, Harris says that based on how these voices interact, especially in our early childhood, we end up adopting a fundamental life script. It's a core belief about our own worth and the worth of others, and it pretty much colors our entire outlook on life. Harris makes this really bold claim that very early on, we make a profound decision that puts us into one of four categories. And this decision, made when we're tiny, becomes the foundation of our entire life script. It determines how we see the world, how we react to failure, who we trust. It's the lens through which we view everything.
Okay, this table lays out the four positions pretty clearly. Let's just walk through them. Down in the bottom left, you've got I'm not okay, you're okay. Harris says this is basically the default starting position for all of us. Over in the bottom right, I'm not okay, you're not okay. That's a position of despair, a feeling that life is just futile. Up in the top right is I'm okay, you're not okay. This is an arrogant, blaming stance. It's the person who's always pointing the finger. And finally, top left, we have I'm okay, you're okay. Harris is very clear. This is the healthy, conscious position. And it's not something you just feel. It's a position you have to consciously choose and work to live from.
So why? Why is I'm not okay, you're okay our universal starting point? It sounds a bit grim, doesn't it? But Harris has this really logical explanation that has nothing to do with us being flawed and everything to do with the simple reality of being a kid. I mean, just think about it from a child's point of view. You are physically small, you're clumsy, you're totally dependent on these giant, powerful people around you. They seem to know everything, they are okay. You, on the other hand, you're always making messes, being told no, needing help. So based on the raw data of your experience, you come to a pretty logical conclusion. They've got it figured out, and I don't. I'm not okay. And this leads to another really important point. This default position, it's not a final judgment on your worth. It's just a conclusion you made based on old data, from a child's limited perspective. It's simply the starting point. Recognizing that this is our default programming is the absolute first step toward being able to consciously update it with new adult information. Okay, so if most of us are starting from I'm not okay, how do we actually get to that healthy, conscious position of I'm okay, you're okay? Well, according to Harris, the whole game is about consciously and deliberately activating our adult ego state. But what makes us even want to start that process? It's not always easy. You know, often the thing that pushes us to change isn't some big, dramatic crisis. Harris says it's often something much quieter. It's the slow, creeping despair he calls ennui or boredom. It's the exhaustion that comes from playing out the same old arguments, the same old self-criticism. It's when you've said so what to yourself so many times that you finally ask the ultimate so what. That quiet feeling, that's often the adult starting to wake up and realize the old way just isn't working anymore. Just take a second to think about that. Where does that feeling show up for you? Maybe it's a recurring pattern in your relationships. Maybe it's a feeling of being stuck at work. That feeling isn't a sign that you're failing. It might just be your adult knocking on the door, saying, hey, are we ready for a new conversation here? From my own experience, this is never a lightning bolt moment. It's much quieter. I remember I was facing this new, really complicated project, and I heard that immediate internal voice, a classic parent tape, saying, you're going to mess this up, just like you did last time. And right on cue, the child felt that familiar knot of anxiety. But this time, something else happened. Another voice chimed in. It was quieter, more curious. It was the adult. And all it asked was, is that really true based on today's facts? What's the very first, smallest step I could take to just understand this problem? That tiny shift from judgment to curiosity, that was everything. So here is the one simple thing you can try from this insight. The next time you feel a really strong automatic reaction, that flash of anger, that shame, that anxiety, or you hear that harsh inner critic, just try this. 1, just notice it. 2, pause and just label it without judgment. Oh, that's my parent tape, or that's my child feeling scared. And 3, gently ask your adult to step in with one simple question. Is this feeling based on what's happening right now, or is this an echo from the past? When we start to practice that simple act of noticing and questioning, the entire internal dynamic starts to shift. We start moving away from being a victim of our old programming, and we start becoming the conscious moderator of our own inner world. And that's really the heart of it all. The journey to I'm okay, you're okay isn't about erasing your past. It's about empowering your present. It's about strengthening your adult so that it can listen respectfully to the warnings of the parent and the feelings of the child, and then make a calm, rational, and compassionate choice that's right for the person you actually are today. If there's one thing worth remembering, real growth begins when an idea is quietly applied, not loudly admired. The next time you hear that inner critic, just try to get curious about it. That small act of quiet application is where all the real change happens. If you found this insight helpful, feel free to like it and subscribe for more. And to help you put these ideas into practice, you can download the free action plan in the description below. Thanks for listening.